Hello, my name is Braden. I've been working for Sooner Marketing for over 10 years, and in that time frame, there's a lot of crucial information and things that I've learned in that time frame that I'd like to share with you. You're watching this video because you're a business owner or you're somebody in charge of marketing, and you want to make sure that those marketing efforts are bringing some sort of ROI back, right? On some level. That's the whole point of this. Marketing is an investment and it's not an expense. Sooner Marketing is a full-service agency based out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, designed to function as your dedicated marketing department, from traditional to digital marketing and advertising. We've got you covered to provide extensive solutions to help you grow your business. We like to start with our 3-step proven process, and that's to help make sure that our clients look good, be found, and stay on top. I advise that you follow this process as well. We've seen that it worked over and over and over again for clients in various industries. So let's start with looking good. This starts with, if I Google your name, can I find out anything about you, about your business? Does your website show up? Does your Google Maps show up? Do you have any reviews? Is there anything else online in that first page or even the first 2 pages that I can find out about your business? That would make me question whether or not you're still in business, whether or not you do good business, what industry you're in, do you have any reviews, things like that on other websites. So once we hit your website is your 24/7 salesperson. So this is and it's also a foundational piece for the rest of your marketing efforts. If you're going to make a flyer, you're more than likely going to refer to your website for information. Same thing with a brochure. Or if you're looking for any other sort of assets and marketing material, and you're looking for design inspiration, well, that should come from your website. Your website's gonna really be a huge brand building component and a foundational piece. When I'm on your website, is it easy for me to understand what you do? Where do you service? What kind of products do you provide? Do I have FAQs about those products or about those services? Are there any videos that explain about your products or services? Things that I could watch and go, oh, I didn't know that they did that part. You know, some people, they like to read, some people like to watch and listen. So make sure you provide some of that information. At the very top, what I find out, at the very top of your website, a lot of people don't have their phone number up there, or they don't have a clear call to action button that's a different color than maybe the rest. So every website, and basically a lot of designs too, you should have main color, primary color, a secondary color, and then a featured or accent color. Usually that accent color is going to be your call to action. So that's where you've got a button on the top right hand corner in your header, maybe next to your menu. It's either a button or a phone number. Click to call, request a quote, you know, things like that. So secondly, scroll down to learn a little bit about your company. If you do commercial work, it's very important to have a really good About Us page. I've seen a lot of Google Analytics where I see insights that show how many people visit the About Us page, and some people just forget about that. They want to know who they're going to be working with, how long you've been in business, do you have any core values, mission, vision, you know, especially if you're a nonprofit, sometimes you have to have those things on your website. I would recommend that they are on there, and there may be a legal requirement, so make sure you check with your state and things like that, and check with an attorney on those. You need to also, speaking of which, make sure you've got your privacy policy, your terms of service, and your conditions, things like that. Those are going to usually be placed in the footer. That's where another really crucial part of your website, I see a lot of people lack in their optimization. You want to make sure that your phone number is in the header, and if not in the header, all right, fine. Secondary is footer, so I'm going to make sure that I can get a hold of you guys. Find contact us. That I would leave to the bottom. Quit putting that at the top of your website. Contact us is so generic. If someone's coming to your website, more than likely they're wanting to learn about your services and to contact you. Yes, but you need to give them a little bit more direction. So I was talking about in the header, instead of just putting contact us, or just, you know, put a button or put the phone number, put a button that's like get a quote, something like that. And then down in the footer, you can put a link to the contact us page along with your name, hours, address, phone number, things like that should go down in the footer. You can also put blogs, you can put careers, and some other links that generally people would search, you know, try to find at your website, and they may not be best placed in the header. Keep your header as short and simple as possible. In that menu, keep it sweet, straight to the point. The next thing that you should want to look at in the look good phase of all this, you want to make sure that your social media profiles, you want to make sure they're at least created. One, as soon as you establish a business, you want to make sure you have the primary social media profiles: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, potentially Pinterest or Snapchat. Not only do you want to make sure you acquire these, even if you don't wind up using all of them, you want to make sure you acquire them so that somebody else doesn't acquire them, for one. 2, they're great for backlinking per se. So like if I Google your name, you know, usually those social media profiles will show up. So that's really good to have. And then make sure you're actively posting on them. You don't have to post every day. The gurus that tell you, hey, post at 3 o'clock, post at 9 o'clock, you know, post at 3, 9, 12, 10, 4, whatever. It's ridiculous, okay? At some point, it's a little crazy. You might as well go ahead and create an X account. Those are for, in some of these platforms, they're gonna be very particular for certain industries, and they're gonna work better over others. So just because you've heard some buzzwords about X, or heard some buzzwords about Snapchat, LinkedIn, whatever the platform is, doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be advertising on those, or marketing on them either, or posting, putting up reels, whatever it is. But I would recommend going to set those up, and posting to some of the really primary ones: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and again, depending on your industry, that can involve YouTube, Snapchat, X. It could even involve Reddit. Reddit would be another really good platform. That's a good platform for social listening and posting information, sharing articles to people who have questions. That's a really good way for to provide some quality backlinks. People will make decisions on whether or not to do business with you if you are posting on social media or not. It really is a big factor. And the frequency that you should be posting, I mean, even if it's 1, 2, or 3 times a week, somewhere in that time frame, frequency for posting, like, that's fine. So you could post at least once a week, twice a week, that's fine. Somewhere between 3 to 5 would be, you know, a great goal to have. And that's gonna be a little bit of a mix between feed post, story post, and video post. So I wanna make sure you're kind of posting all 3 of those, okay? So that's where if you're like, all right, if I'm building out, you know, what I'm gonna be posting throughout the month, let's say you're gonna dedicate to post 3 days a week. Let's say Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Okay, well, Mondays and Fridays, you could post to the feed, and Wednesdays you could post videos, right? And then throughout the week, as you're doing things day to day that don't necessarily need to be on the feed, you could post those to your stories. Stories are a great place to kind of keep your audience engaged in the little things that you're doing day to day, and they love to see those. And we've seen that work really well for a lot of our clients. So it's a subtle little way to nudge your audience and say, hey, here's what we're doing, without it actually belonging in the feed to kind of mess up the branding. Okay, so now we're going to continue on with the branding conversation. Make sure you have your logo files. You have the source file, like Adobe InDesign or Photoshop, something like that. Do you have PNGs or SVG files? SVGs are great files to have. If you use Canva, you can put that SVG logo file into Canva, and you can change the colors if need be, depending on the background. So you want to make sure you've got those logo files in maybe a square format, and a wide format, and a tall format. You want to make sure that you've got those in maybe different colors, so you want to kind of build that out ahead of time. So if, like for Sooner Marketing's colors, we have the blue, the orange, the gray, and the white. The orange is our accent color, the blue is primary, and the gray is secondary. And the white is a complementary one to all 3 of those. And so what we would do is we would have our logo that would be placed on a white background, on a gray background, and on a black background. The blue and the orange typically won't be very good backgrounds to have, so we kind of avoid putting our logo on those. But have your logos in the extreme colors, black and white. That'll be really good to have. That'll give you some versatility depending on where your logo is going. If you have a black truck, what does that logo look like? If you have a white truck, what does that logo look like on there? So go ahead and build those out ahead of time. It's gonna help you a whole lot. Next, you wanna make sure you have your colors. What are those? Primary, secondary, and an accent color, or a complementary. So you can have up to 4. That complementary color should blend well with the other 3, okay? So again, that's gonna be usually like an extreme color like white, or some variant shade of white. Maybe it's pale white, maybe a brownish kind of white, I don't know. You want to make sure you got those hex codes as well. So those are usually, will have like a little pound sign, and then it'll have about 5 digits. And that is the code for your color. You can easily take that code and you can get the different types of codes from that. You can get CMYK codes. Those are really good for print. And then even the Pantone ones can be pulled from the hex colors. They're gonna be a little bit different for CMYK and Pantone. But when you have those set in place, it's gonna make it so much easier for when you guys decide to put your logo on a vehicle, or on a billboard, or on a t-shirt, hat, hoodie, things like that. It'll make it tremendously different. So in our next step, now that we know that you look good and you have your website that looks great, you have your branding, your social profiles and things like that, right? Maybe even some print assets. You know, you have all that, looks fantastic. Sweet. So now it's time to be found. And during the be found step of the process, this is when it's time to more or less start advertising, okay? Now, when we're advertising, we have a few things that we want to make sure that we know what to expect. Timeline, budget, expectations, okay? And this is how we're gonna do this. There's 5 things that we wanna focus on knowing. 1 is, what is your objective? These are like calls, form submissions. Do you just want brand awareness, traffic, retargeting, etc.? Next step in this is your audience. You need to identify and understand your audience. Who they are, how old are they? What are their titles? Where are they geographically located? What interests do they have? What education do they have? If you don't know this, maybe you haven't already acquired some of this data, it's super easy to send out some emails, make a few phone calls and say, hey, can I talk to you for about 3 to 5 minutes and ask you a few questions. Figure out what their age is, where do they usually work, maybe they have multiple offices, so you want to figure out, okay, well, they work here in Tulsa, and maybe they go to Oklahoma City, do they travel? Things like that are so important to know. So once you kind of have that down, then you can kind of start to figure out your platform. Your platform could be Google, social, radio, billboards, maybe it's Spotify, right? There's a lot of different platforms, and choosing the right channel for your message is very important. The next step is budget. Allocating resources effectively and measuring that ROI. This is where budget is going to make sure that, hey, if I spend $500 or $5,000 or $50,000 in this 30-day period, or in this, maybe it's a 12-month period, what is the estimated number of clicks? How many impressions are we supposed to get? What is the reach? What is the total reach within the audience that we have set in those parameters that we want to target? What is the potential reach based on that budget? Are we expected to reach 20% of that audience over a 12-month, 30-month, three-month or whatever time frame? Or are we expected to reach 90% of them in 12 months? Does it take 12 months for us to reach 90% of that audience? Or, how long does it take? So you got to work with your paid media person to try to figure out a little bit more of the strategy work. So don't just get all fancied by the budget and how many clicks and how many impressions. Try to avoid those and actually, figure out a little bit more in depth on those. So it's very crucial. Budget-wise, I would recommend spending no more than $500 a month. Minimum $500 a month. If you're out here boosting on Facebook and you're spending $10, and that's it, you're only spending $20 a month, it's not gonna work. So if you come and tell me, hey, I've spent money on Facebook ads and they don't work, well, that's not gonna work. And also, the boost does work. It can work in the right situation. So if you got something really short, you don't wanna turn into a campaign, it's not gonna last very long, and you just wanna get some extra awareness around it, that is great. Boost it. Probably spend a little bit closer to 50, 75 bucks if you're gonna go on the lower end. And on the high end, somewhere around $300 to $400. And I would probably put those out for about a week. And so what you're gonna see is you're gonna be like, oh, I want more calls, more website visitors, or maybe I want more engagement. Going back to the objective part, whenever you pick those, your cost is going to change on those. So let's say you budget $100 just to make it easy. If you want calls, getting calls is going to be more expensive than just having more video views. Getting more video views is going to be paid based on a cost per 1,000 impressions, while the calls or clicks is going to be based on more of a performance method that way. So anytime someone clicks or calls, and then what does the system have to do in order to get you those calls or clicks? So there's a little bit more work on the algorithm side, so they charge you a little bit different rate and different methods. So last but not least, creative and messaging. All right, so again, with those people who are like, oh, I ran Facebook ads and it hasn't worked. Well, sometimes you got to play with the budget, you got to play with the target, you got to play with the creative and messaging. Creating that creative is like photo, video, or audio. Which one's most important? Add that to one of your questions when you try to figure out your target market. Do they prefer to just look at some really cool photos of your landscaping jobs? Do they prefer to watch a video over those? Do they prefer to listen? So that's where audio-wise, that could come into Spotify ads, or that could come into podcasting, right? So it helps you craft that compelling and clear message for your audience on what they want. So we've went through our look good phase, we went through our be found phase, and now it's time to stay on top. So what does that mean? Well, you're gonna do a little bit of your rinse and repeat process. At minimum, once every year, you should go through and you should be like, okay, what have we spent money on? Where have we spent that money? Who have we targeted? What does that look like? And what adjustments should we make going forward? Be careful about making too many adjustments. You don't want to change your budget, your creative, and your audience all at once. You got to let some of this roll out for at least 2 to 4 weeks. So change your budget, see what that does, okay? I've seen a lot of times where people would budget $500 and then they increase that to $1,500 or $3,000, and bam, like overnight, started getting calls, leads, form submissions. They're like, turn it off, we got too busy. So play around with just one thing at a time before you optimize everything. If that didn't change anything, go back to the previous budget, change the creative. If that didn't do anything, go back, change the target audience. And so you can play around with some of that. And what people do when they do A/B testing is they say, okay, I'm going to run this campaign to this audience with the same budget, same creative, and the only thing I'm going to change with this campaign over here is where they're located geographically. So maybe they're in one zip code here and another zip code there. Or maybe I'm going to put out one ad that's a photo, that's like a carousel post, or maybe just a static photo post on Facebook. And then on this one, I'm going to do video, and I'm going to see which one performs better. So if you're going to do some A/B testing, that's what I would recommend. I'd love to have some more of these conversations with you. The whole point of this is retention. What are you doing to stay top of mind? Again, I will say that there's a rule of 7s, and it's slowly kind of adjusted to make it almost 12, but somewhere between the frequency of 7 and 12, which just means the ratio of people who see your ad, how many times do they see it? So you could reach one person and they could see your ad 4 times. Well, that would frequency would be called a 4.0. If you see a frequency that is like 2.6, that means 60% of your audience is going to see your ad 3 times. You're going to want to have that frequency set somewhere between, depending on the duration and the objective, but somewhere between 3 to 5 could be sufficient. Somewhere between 10 to 20 could be sufficient. Ideally, you want to stay somewhere between 7 to 12, and that could apply through one platform or that could apply through 2 or 3. You're buying a piece of their mind, essentially is what you're doing. So that's the whole point of like continually to market, continually posting and advertising, and not just advertising and market on one place, doing it in multiple places. So if you're marketing, posting on Facebook and Instagram, you're advertising on there, you've got radio, maybe you got radio ads, maybe you have one billboard, and let's say you're doing some Google ads. Okay, great. Well, the radio and the billboards are gonna really help keep that top of mind. So when they think of, let's say, a plumber, they're gonna go to Google, they're gonna look up a plumber. They're going to more than likely remember your name, okay? And when they go to Google, they see your ad show up at the top and they go, oh yeah, that plumbing company, I heard about them on the radio and I remember seeing them here or whatever. Or maybe they don't consciously remember that, subconsciously, because they've seen that ad, they've seen your billboard, they've heard it or whatever it is so many times, and now makes it that much easier for them to be able to convert and become a customer. So what can you do to improve things like that? You're always going to want to do that to try to stay on top. Some other things that you could do is, again, we're talking about retention. Maybe some of those things, marketing isn't just advertising. It's not just posting on social media. It's not just a website. It's also some things to do to help make sure that your customers become promoters and they love your brand. So what are some little things that we could do to help keep existing customers? So look into some methods that are like gift boxes, or maybe a rewards program, loyalty program, things like that. Speaking of marketing and advertising, they're a little bit different. Okay, marketing is going to be related to like website, SEO, social media posting, while advertising is going to be more like Google ads, Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, radio ads, billboards, things like that. Marketing is more of long-term strategies for brand growth, and advertising is more of short-term paid promotions to drive more immediate results. You need to simultaneously be doing both. You need to simultaneously be growing the brand, and at the same time, whenever you need some of that boost in business, spend that money on short-term paid promotions to drive some immediate results. And this is another part of that conversation. You can't just start advertising and people know exactly who you are and trust you. You've got to build both at the same time. I've seen so many businesses to where they waste money on advertising before they've done any brand building work, or before they're advertising on radio and I go to Google to look them up and I don't see anything about them. Or maybe they have terrible reviews, or maybe they have no reviews, or maybe their website's so old and bare bones. I'm like, why are you spending $3,000 a month, $3,000 a month on radio ads? Or why are you sponsoring this stuff, but then you haven't done any work to yourself, to your brand online? The performance and the results that you're going to see from advertising is going to be directly correlated to the brand that you've built. The recognition, the piece of the mind that you've bought, that you've acquired in your target audience's mind, is going to help those ads work even better. A few other tips that you want to do, super easy. Create a budget and an annual calendar. Setting realistic budgets for marketing and advertising efforts can be super, super helpful. So whenever building out that marketing calendar, you're going to easily categorize those by months, January through December, and you're going to work with your team to go, okay, when are some of our peak seasons on some of our peak services or peak products? Do we have any of those peak seasons? If you don't, that's fine. Most industries do. So to say, if you're in landscaping in January, you may prepare and start getting in people's minds for landscape projects, right? Hey, get in early before our calendar, our schedule's booked. In February, you might start doing some irrigation stuff, or you might do some winterization stuff in November. You may start promoting lawn care services in May. Create whatever those focuses are for that month. Get those in a very high level view, category for each month, and then within those, what you're going to do, you're going to plan out what we're going to be posting on social media. So any really important things. Hey, our customers really need to know in April we have a lot of, or May, we have a lot of drainage issues. Okay, so a lot of our customers, a lot of people will call in and be like, hey, we need a French drain, we need this, or we need gutters, or okay, it's because maybe it's a rainy season where you're at. So on social media, you're going to be posting these kind of related things. You're not going to get too detailed as in like captions. You're just going to be like, okay, we need to make sure we're posting about these services and kind of bullet those out. Do the same thing for your email marketing. For your email marketing, hey, these are some of the general things we need to include in there. Here's going to be some of the tips we're going to include like that. On your advertising, you need to get started with that at least a month in advance. So if you're going to start advertising in July, you need to make sure that in the beginning months of June, maybe towards the end of May, you're starting those conversations, you're putting together the creative, you're starting to build those out, and then go ahead and have it prepped and ready to go to start on July 1st. Have that run for whatever you need to do. So whatever those peak seasons are, whenever you build out that calendar, give yourself a little leeway, a little leg room, about 30 to 45 days in advance from when that peak kind of starts. That'll give you plenty of prep and plan time and make sure that things are rolling out smoothly. You're gonna do the same thing with like paid, like I said, paid advertising. You wanna have, hey, we have these billboards. Maybe you have 5, 10, 15, whatever billboards. Maybe you just have one. And you wanna know what those billboards are promoting when those contracts end, which is gonna be related into your budget. So usually you have an opportunity once a year with these billboard companies, if they're static or Trivision, you're gonna be able to have the ability to change those out once a year at no cost. But maybe you have digital, right? If you have digital billboards, those are fantastic to be able to change out creative right there on the fly. Just change them out once a month if you wanted to. Some companies allow you to be able to do that. So you can go and pre-build out that creative and then schedule those to go to, and hand those over to the company, to the billboard company, so then they can display those every month on schedule. There's plenty of other things you can dive into that. Maybe there needs to be updates to your website, such as your blog, right? So your blog, you're going to refer back to the category that you set for that month. So then you're gonna go, if someone's doing SEO for you, you're gonna go, oh, this is the kind of blog articles when you start writing. And again, like with those, you wanna give those some time to rank. 60 to 90 days should be fair. So you could have those kind of posted, and then you want those posted in advance because those can go into your social media, those can go into your emails, and plus it'll have time to rank, like I said. So have certain things like that. And then, so making sure you've got those peak season service product focuses, that's important. Your budget should include, again, all of those same categories. So with email, social, paid advertising, radio, billboards, even what you're spending in SEO. If you have someone internally for SEO, I guess, account for their salary in that budget. If you have somebody for social media, account for their salary in that budget. If they're doing both of those things, split their salary in half and apply that across the line to their budget. Following all these methods and all these procedures by looking good, being found, and staying on top can be crucial to making sure that you're doing your best to not waste the other half of the money that you don't know what you're spending on. So now you know what you're spending on it. Now you know the plan for the year, so that if you're the business owner, or maybe you're in charge of marketing, you're able to have those conversations with partners or the business owner, or maybe C-level executives, and go, hey, I've created the plan for the year. I've created the budget for the year. Here's what we're going to be doing. Here's the ideas, blah, blah, blah. It gives them, helps them to create a clearer vision with you on what to do and how to do all that. So super important stuff. Follow Sooner Marketing to learn more. Connect with me if you've got questions, and I appreciate you guys, and we'll be in touch.